Hey, this is Rob Anspach, and welcome to another edition of eHeroes. Now, for those who have listened to these episodes for the last couple of years, you know that I love traveling and I love Disney. So, I brought my next guest on who specializes and has made a living writing about Disney and traveling. So, welcome, Tarah Chieffi.
Yes,
Right?
thank you. Yes, you got
You
it.
know, for those who don't know, please, listen and pay attention because I've read a lot of what Tara has written, and it's just fascinating because here's somebody who just enjoys Disney so much and that passion for traveling, but it didn't always start that way, and so hopefully through this interview we're gonna shed some light on that evolution on how you guys can find your passion and whether you want to write about something, whether you want to video something, you know, follow Tara's lead. So
Thanks. Yeah, I definitely did come to it in a very roundabout way. I wish that I hadn't. I wish I had realized I could write about something that I'm so passionate about earlier in life, but I sort of started out just knowing that I wanted a job where I felt like I was helping people. I've done a lot of customer service jobs, and internet-based ones, so where I was in an office, but I was doing phone or live chat to where I didn't get treated like a person very often. And I definitely did not feel like that was my calling in life. Um, and
oh,
so I
and
decided
he's never been in one of my books before, my Rob Burst.
I like the motto, treat others how you want to be treated. Um, so I decided to go back to school to be a nutrition coach because to me that felt like a way that I could feel like I was actually making a difference and helping people.
Mhm.
So while I was in school, I my coach, I think it was my coach, the owner of the CrossFit gym that I was going to, he was writing for a local fitness publication and recommended me to do some nutrition articles for them, which I've always loved writing. I did a lot of creative writing classes in school, but I never thought of myself as a writer or even realized that if you didn't live in New York and or LA or something that you could even be a writer, that could be your job.
Yeah,
um
I never considered myself a writer either,
yeah,
and I kind of got the same start. I started writing for a local cleaning business or a cleaning magazine while I had my cleaning business, and
yeah,
it just kind of took off from there. And then they said, "Can you write about this? Can you write about that?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay."
I guess I
Yeah.
can. So after I was writing for them, I started. Uh, I think I saw a job opening with Pop Sugar.
Hmm.
Um, it would have taken us from Indiana to San Francisco, which wasn't the most practical thing, but I was like, hey, I'm just going to give it a try. And I didn't get it. They did go with someone local, but they said they liked my writing. So I started doing some nutrition articles for them and some health articles. But I grew up in Florida. A bunch of my family has worked at Disney. We went all the time. We were only a couple hours away. So I've always had that love for theme parks. And just if we happened to go on a trip or something, I would pitch a story. And over the years that I was doing mostly health writing, I would just write a Disney article here and there about, visiting when you're pregnant, visiting with a newborn, or things like that. But I still just did not see it as something that I could do any more than that. I
Hmm.
I really didn't know anything about freelancing. I didn't know that there were people who just wrote for multiple places. I thought anybody that was writing for a magazine or a website was a full-time employee of that publication. And I knew nothing about pitching. I did not expand beyond that one outlet for a really long time because I just didn't know anything about the industry. Um, but at some point, I noticed that they had a lot of Disney articles on their site and a lot of Universal articles. I was like, wait, I could be writing about this thing that is the thing that I do in my off time is go to Disney as often as I possibly can. And I could just be writing about this instead of I was a little disillusioned with some of the more fad diets and stuff like that. That's not what I was really into. I feel like I had a more middle of the road approach.
Hmm.
Um, So I just started to transition a little bit more. I just decided I was going to do it. I made a whole new website, changed all my social media, made long lists of article pitch ideas that were related to theme parks, started keeping up with all the theme park news, and joining some Facebook groups for freelance journalists, and realized like, oh, there's a ton of people doing this freelance thing. And yeah, it is a lot of work to figure out how, it's not always, they don't always put it right out front, how to
Mhm.
pitch publications, who do you reach out to, how do they like to receive pitches. So that it does take a lot of work to start to figure some of that stuff out, but there are some great communities out there that are very helpful, especially some of the women's writers groups that I've joined. And
Mhm.
you just sort of feel it out along the way. And now, um, I get to write about my favorite places all the time, which is super fun. I mean, and I still feel like I'm helping people, because
Right.
what I really want to do is to help make someone's vacation better. Like if I can, help them figure out where to stay, or some of the maybe things you wouldn't think to bring with you, but that can make your trip better, or even if it's just something silly like a new snack that just came out, it still could be something you didn't know about and didn't realize that you could have, and just sort of, brightens up your trip and makes it more exciting. So
And
I
and
I
and for
love
those
doing
that
it.
are listening, I want you to pay attention because what she hit upon is what we teach in SEO all the time. You write about things that people are already searching for. So now you're writing about all these things people are searching for, and now they're stumbling upon your article because you
Hmm.
hit upon that particular issue, or that thing that they're looking at. And there's a lot of times where I had this oddball question, and then I'm searching and searching, and someone's written an article about it, or they've
Hmm.
done a video on it, and as you get older, when you go into these theme parks, you want to know where the bathrooms are. You want to know where
Yeah.
the emergency area is. And when you write about these things, you better believe that there's an older generation of people that go to theme parks that want to know these answers and they can't find them.
Yeah. I mean, my last trip was not, I have 3 children, but my last trip was not with them. It was just me and my husband. Like, I love going with them, but I also love
Yeah.
going just with him, or just with friends, or other family members, because and it can be a different experience, no matter who you go with.
Right.
But I mean, that is part of the, I probably am on social media too much, but that is one of the ways that it's easy to see what are people reacting to, or what do people have questions about, or problems that need solved. And it's, you can sort of stay on the pulse of, well, what's new,
Mhm.
and what do people need help with, what's
Well, and
an
that's how we met.
issue.
We met on LinkedIn,
Hmm.
and I think I was answering a poll that you created a question, I've created a few polls on LinkedIn, and where I get better response on LinkedIn for polls than I do on Facebook. Facebook is just good for posting stuff to, I guess, the general public, but when you want to reach the leaders, the CEOs, the decision makers, just go right to LinkedIn.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't use it that much before, but I guess I didn't feel like maybe writing about theme parks was something that people on LinkedIn would be interested in. But I do try to share all of my articles on there now, because I mean it is helpful
Mhm.
information, and yeah, like you said, people do have questions, and depending on the audience, they're going to have different types of questions. And I love that, now you can go on there and find so much information when you look online, because
Mhm.
people know that there's an audience for these topics. Like,
Right.
I mean, yesterday I wrote an article about the 2 water parks at Disney. And yeah, you could go online, and they have a website. On Disney has a website for each of the 2 water parks, but it it still helps to have something that distills it down and puts it all in one place where you can sort of, it's not ranking one above the other, but you can compare the two and decide which would be best for you. And that's hard to do if you're just on a company's website looking at at what they have on there. It sometimes helps to see it all in one place and have it broken down, the rides, the food, the location, how to get there, and just sort of answer all those questions. And then if you're trying to pick one, it's easy to pick one that's going to be best for you.
Right. And it's kind of ironic. You went from writing about health and healthy foods, and now you're kind of writing about theme park foods, and
Yeah.
that's not healthy.
Well, some of it is.
Some of it.
I am working on a story right now on the best theme park restaurants, or the theme park restaurants that have the best plant-based dishes. There are healthy foods. You have to look for them.
Yeah.
But I I think I've always had this philosophy, and it's helped me to adopt it even more, that nothing should be off limits. You should be able to have what you want and enjoy it. And I mean, I would say that at home I'm not like making an ice cream sundae that fits in a little kitchen
Yeah.
sink.
I've had one of those too.
But it's fun to have that when you go on a trip. So sometimes I save some of those special things. I take my menu planning before
Well,
my
Disney
theme
has
park
done a
trips
great
very
job.
seriously.
I think Disney's done a great job of transitioning over to plant-based foods over the last
Oh
few years.
yeah, they have so many options now.
When we first started going, many, many years ago, when we started taking our kids, I mean, there was really very little healthy choices.
Hmm.
And, at the time, my daughter was diabetic, and to try to find foods that would fit her diet was impossible.
Yeah.
And so over the years, they've done a great job, and you know, I, I applaud them. Although some of the restaurants that they have really need a makeover. Some of the new ones like Boma are just incredible.
Oh my gosh, yes. We went there. I think we did a little baby moon when I was pregnant with my third, and we went. My husband and I went, and yeah, it was definitely nice to go without the kids and be able to go and sort of pick everything and enjoy everything. But yeah, I mean, there are some really good places, and but to your point, when it was a little harder to find things, I mean, there are blogs out there that are specifically like a vegetarian at Disney, vegan
Mm.
at Disney, or even diabetic, all these different things, because it is hard to find that stuff.
Right.
So there's people that I've seen that have definitely found that niche,
Mhm.
to be something that needed to be filled, and trying to make it easier for
Yeah.
people, which I love. I love when people sort of take that on, and because there is definitely a need for it.
Now, and I don't like to talk about the pandemic in every episode, but it really did affect the travel industry. It really affected Disney and the theme parks. How did that affect your business?
Um, it was a big pivot. I mean, it was, it's just so strange because last March we all thought it would just be a couple weeks.
Yeah.
And so, at first I wasn't too worried about it. And then when the park started shutting down, and travel started shutting down, it was like, okay, well, what am I supposed to write about? So I did have, in the long run, I think it was very helpful in general. I did have to get really creative. So I was pitching stories. Disney and Universal did a wonderful job of, they started sharing recipes online. They started doing little behind the scenes educational videos, all kinds of stuff like that. Or so I would pitch stories about those, or book roundups. If you wanted to learn more about the theme parks, some behind the scenes stuff. So I had to get really, really creative. It couldn't just be, there's a new snack that you can try. Because, and on top of that, publications didn't want to encourage people to travel, although
Right.
some people were still traveling here and there. They didn't want to encourage it, which I completely understood. Budgets were slashed, so they were much pickier about the type
Mhm.
of articles that they could take. So it was really, it was tough. It was pretty stressful. My anxiety was pretty high, I would say, all of last summer, because when news did come out, it was sort of this race to try to see if you could find someone that was interested in covering it. But definitely over the past, month or so, uh, as things have been opening back up and the numbers finally seem to be going the right direction here in the States, at least,
Okay.
more and more people are getting vaccinated. I can tell that publications are starting to be more open to some of the so- stories that aren't necessarily related to the pandemic.
Right.
That was something else that I was writing a lot, like what's it like to go to a theme park right now, or what could you expect, what should you bring, stuff like that. So it's I can tell things are getting back to normal a little bit, which is really encouraging.
Mhm.
Because yeah, I mean, it's hard when people tell you, that they like the idea, but it's not something that they, want to put out there right now, because it doesn't feel like the right timing, which I completely understand.
Well,
Um,
we went in January,
yeah,
and you know, I appreciate all the safety measures that Disney did. Um, and I love the fact that wait times for most of the rides were like 5 to 10 minutes
right.
because normally they're like 2 hours. The problem is that all the pre-ride show or pre-ride entertainment that you would normally experience walking through these rides to get before you even got on the ride
Hmm.
was eliminated.
Right.
So you didn't see any of that. So some of the experience or the magic was kind of gone. So you kind of traded all that for faster ride times. But
Yeah.
I think all in all they did a great job in trying to get people in, trying to get people back to work, and to me it was a different type of magic.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a lot of, especially earlier on, a lot of people that just thought theme parks should be closed, that the world should just be shut down. But I think I saw it a little bit differently from the point of view that it is a business. They have tens of thousands of employees, and I know that everybody's not able to be brought back yet, but that they want to be able to have as many people as they can, and that they want to sustain their business. um, so I totally understood them wanting to be open and just trying to find a way to make it work. Anytime I did write an article that was sort of about visiting right now, my point of view is, if you've been to Disney, you sort of already know the drill, and you already know that you like it, you're sort of familiar that, and that you're comfortable with, sort of being out in a public setting right now, that it was a good time to go. But people who had never been, or wanted to have the big blowout family trip, that you might want to wait until things are a little bit more back to normal, just so you can get the full experience. But I think we've been to Disney 3 or 4 times, and Universal 3 or 4 times, and we have a park that's about an hour away, Holiday World, which is a super fun regional, park that I would recommend. But, we had a good experience every time because we sort of knew what to
Right.
expect. And we've been so often that we didn't feel like we were missing out on the things that were missing. And some things I've enjoyed more. I just posted this the other day and on Twitter, and it seemed like a lot of people agreed that I love how the characters are just sort of out and about. We saw Donald watering the plants at Hollywood Studios, and Winnie the Pooh was just sort of running around in the grass at Epcot. And while you don't get to go up and give them a hug and
Right.
and sort of do what you would have done in the past, it kind of adds to the atmosphere, I think, which I like. I don't know. I kind of hope that maybe that sticks around.
Yeah, I mean, I think my biggest enjoyment was watching my grandson when we were at Crystal Palace, and he gave I guess it was Pooh or Tigger, one of them, a big hug, and it was just amazing, and
Yeah.
but I think this pandemic has taught me, at least going to the parks, that more patience is needed. You know, those who've been to the parks, like you said, we already know what to expect.
Hmm.
We know the drill. We might be disappointed that certain things might not be open, but it'll be open again. You
Yeah.
know, we're going to come back. I mean, that's what we do. We're diehards. Um, so, I mean, between the theme parks, I mean, which one do you like writing better for?
I
Or
cannot pick.
that's
That is the forbidden question. No, I honestly, and this is not like a I don't like a boilerplate answer. I genuinely do like them both for different reasons.
Mhm,
I mean, Disney does have that very magical, you've
yeah,
been whisked away to this other world feel. Um, but the vibe at Universal, which I'm talking mostly, I guess, just about the Florida parks.
right,
It's just it just feels a little more laid back
yeah,
and kind of relaxed. You're not planning it necessarily a year or 2 years in advance. I think you can do it on the fly a little bit more. And I mean, definitely if you're into a little more thrilling attractions, as opposed to the more family friendly, especially really young kids.
right,
Universal has some really, really, really great coasters, and even some of the like virtual or like screen based attractions that are super fun. So
right.
I think it depends on who you're going with and what type of experience you want. So I could never
Yeah,
choose. I love them both.
I like the Simpsons ride at Universal,
Oh yeah, it's wild.
it was funny because we were walking through, I think the second edition of Harry Potter, and I walked down this alley. I didn't even notice on the up top where it said Nocturne Alley. I just walked down, and there's a store back there. I can't think of the name,
The
and
Borgin and Burks.
that's it. Yeah,
Yeah.
and my daughter was like, "Oh, this is a cool place," and she's back there and she's buying something, and I walked out, and my wife's like, "Where'd Sam go?" I said, "I don't know. Probably still down there." And like a half hour later, my daughter comes back out and she's bought a whole bunch of stuff. And she said, "Dad, that was the coolest store ever."
It's so neat. They, I think I think some of the props in there are replicas
Mm,
from the movie. I don't know if they have anything in there that was from the movie. But the funny thing about Nocturne Alley is we, the first two times I went to the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, I didn't even go back there. I thought it was like a walkway for employees to get backstage. We didn't even go in there. We saw it and didn't go back there. And then finally we saw the sign and walked back there after that. And now, I mean, it's such a cool little hidden thing. And I've included that in articles because it is so easy to miss.
yeah,
So that's the type of thing that, I mean, I've just walked into Diagon Alley before and heard somebody say behind me that they didn't even know it was there.
right.
They just have always just walked right past the entrance because it is very hidden.
Mhm,
So there is this assumption that everybody would know that already.
right.
And what's the point of writing about that or sharing about that? Because everybody should know that already, but they don't. Like, you get so immersed in a certain topic that, is your expertise or that is your passion, that I think, and when you know that there's a lot of other people that are doing something similar to what you're doing, it can be really easy to think that everything that's been said about something or that can be said about something has already been said, but it's really not true. There's people that have never heard or seen this information, and it needs to be in the right place at the right time. And um, you know, you I I would always advise people not to shy away from something because they think it's already been done, because
Right.
you're going to reach somebody.
Yeah. And between the two theme parks, whether you go to Walt Disney World or Universal Studios in Florida, or any of the Universal Studios or Disneyland for that matter, you know, every time you go there, there's always something that you're going to see for the first time.
Yes, that
You
is
know,
true.
I've been to Disney World multiple times, and every time we go, there's something different. And all these times I've gone, I've never gone to the water parks.
I
So
finally just went a few weeks ago. When I went on May 1st, we went for my husband's birthday, and it was the kind of thing that I just always felt like I didn't want to make time for. I didn't want
Yeah.
to take away from the parks, but it does not take away from the parks at all. We had so much fun,
Yeah.
and they're just as well themed as the parks. And one of the things I always tell people is to sort of take a rest day if you're going to be there 4 or 5 days or more, to take a day off. You can't be walking 13 miles a day at the parks for that many days straight. Everybody's going to be really cranky and tired probably.
I was cranky and tired before I even got there, but that's just me.
But the water parks, that's a great way to sort of chill out for the day and take it a little easier. They don't have the crazy long hours, so it's a shorter day. You don't have to get up so early, and you can just go relax. But
And Disney
I loved
has
it.
a couple mini golf courses that
Yeah,
up until a few years ago I didn't even know they had.
and
And
those are really cute
yeah,
too.
we've played them all, and I just it's just a fun way to chill and not have to worry about park hopping or any of that.
Yeah,
And it's just although the one is, I think, more exposed to the sun than the other two, but it's just a good way to unwind.
yeah, yeah. I think you can get really bogged down in thinking you need to spend every hour that you're at
Mhm.
the resort in the parks, because there is so much to see and do, and it can get kind of overwhelming. But you're not going to, no matter what you do, you're not going to see and do everything
Right,
in one visit, no matter how long you stayed. So you shouldn't even try, and you
right.
should make sure you're taking that time, I think, to see the other parts.
Well, the first thing well, I guess not the first thing, but the things that we experienced the first couple times we went down there is I had this schedule of everything that we wanted to
Hmm.
do and try to cram it all in. And this was before they had the mobile stuff,
Hmm.
and you couldn't schedule a lot of things. And I'm like, okay, well, we didn't get that done. We didn't get that done. We didn't get, and it's like, oh, you're just filled with disappointment. So now I go in knowing that there's like maybe one or two things I want to do that day, and that's it. If we get those two done, great. Then the rest of the
Right.
day is you don't want to. You don't want to. I always say, you know, lower your expectation
Yes.
because
Especially
otherwise
if
you're
you're
gonna.
going with kids.
Yeah. Otherwise you're gonna. And the first couple of times we went, we had small kids, and it was just it felt like stroller wars because it was like
Yeah.
next go to the next ride. Oh wait, spend 10 minutes trying to find a place to put the stroller, and it was just now that we don't have small kids, it's so much funner. But I appreciate all Disney has to do, or all the theme parks have to do with all those strollers, because that's it, especially when they all look the same.
I know. I've seen that. So I have never done it myself. I probably should, but I've seen people tie balloons or little streamers or just something really colorful so that
Yeah,
they can find their stroller quicker, because they do have to move them around sometimes to make room as people come and go.
yeah.
So it can take a minute to try to find yours sometimes.
you know
But oh, go ahead.
Besides Pop Sugar, who else do you write for?
Um, Travel and Leisure, Fodors, Insider, Seeker, is a really fun community that I've been writing for, and they have a community aspect too, where anybody can join and sort of share what they're an expert on, which is
Mhm.
really fun. It's because then when I'm going to go somewhere that I'm not familiar with, I like being able to see what people who have actually been there and
Mhm.
experienced it, the type of stuff that they recommend. So that's really fun. And I've done I mean, pretty much anybody that will have me.
And
So,
do you have to negotiate a pay, or they say this is how much we're going to pay you, or
some places have a standard rate. Some it's based on the type of article or the length of the article. But most places, uh, some are pretty standard and stick with their rates, and but some you can negotiate if
Mhm.
you're for a higher rate. Or I mean, I've even had, and I feel like this is so shocking with some of the horror stories that I've heard of, how low some other places are. But I mean, I've even had editors, afterwards, like tack on some more because something ended up being more work
Hmm.
Hang on. Avery, go with daddy. I've had something end up being hi.
And we have a guest appearance from
Yes, you didn't know there was going
Avery.
to be guest star. He loves theme parks too. Um, but that, something ended up being more work, or I had to go back and do more interviews or something like that,
Yeah.
where, they offered to pay more, which I'm not always the best at asking for more. It's okay. So that's,
Well,
that sort
and
of gives me a little more courage to do better with negotiating.
I've been in the field where I'm ghostwriting for somebody, whether it be a book or an article, and they'll say, well, so and so can do it for 10 cents a word. Why are you charging $1 a word? I said, because it's going to get done right. And they're like,
Right.
oh, okay. But there's always going to be someone cheaper.
Hmm.
Whether or not they're going to be better. I mean, you've spent all this time, and anybody listening, you understand that as you get better in your field, you have authority now, and you
Hmm.
can say, well, I've written for this, or I've done this, and this, and never, 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 let them dictate the terms and conditions that you'll get paid for. Always.
Right. You sort of have to have your standards and just stick to it. Which, is hard. You don't want to turn things down, especially when you're trying to establish yourself and trying to get, as much under your belt as you can, so that you do have those bylines and those clips that you can send to people so that they can see the type of work that you can do. But it can be easy to overcommit to things, or, I've, uh, that's part of why I've tried to really narrow in on theme parks, and some family travel stuff too,
Right.
because I have 3 kids. And so most of the travel that we do is, trying to navigate how to do it with 3 small kids. But I try really hard to just stay in those lanes,
Hmm.
because if not, you can just overcommit, or get out of your wheelhouse quickly, even though it's tempting to take on everything sometimes.
Yeah. Now, I said I wasn't going to ask any personal questions, but this one has to deal with Disney's diversity. And
Oh yeah.
and I saw that you have a tattoo.
Yes.
So have you written any articles about tattoos and Disney's new policy?
I pitched a few, but I did not. I don't think the places that I pitched didn't end up covering it, or somebody else covered it. But I am very excited about it. Uh, it is funny because I used to joke. Well, when I was little, this is not a joke. I wanted to be a parade performer at Disney. When I grew up, that was my dream job as a child. But then once I grew up and I had these tattoos, I was like, oh, I guess I can never work at Disney, but now maybe I can.
Yeah, I can't
So
work at
maybe
Disney. I'm
it's
too
still in my
sarcastic.
future.
So
I do love it though, because I mean, I think people should be able to feel comfortable, being who they are, in any setting, and I think it'll make guests feel more comfortable too.
mhm,
I mean, I think I think it just gives it a little bit more of a genuine experience, because people aren't having to act like someone they're not. Everybody's able to be who they are, and then that personality shines through even more. And um, a lot of the other changes that they're making, not just with the cast members being able to, show their personal style and heritage more, but some of the rides and stuff that are changing as well, because I think it's easy uh, to not put yourself in someone else's shoes of how they might be experiencing the
mhm,
parks, if it's not something that directly affects you. But no, I've heard from enough people of how certain things did make them uncomfortable. And everybody talks about Disney as being this escape from reality, but it's not for some people, when there are rides or depictions that make them feel uncomfortable, or that are discriminatory. So I'm very excited for
well,
for the changes.
I wrote an article for an attorney last year about when fights break out at your amusement park, and this was kind of referencing a fight that broke out at Disney. I think it was a year ago or 2 years ago, and you know, those types of experiences really turn off park goers
Hmm.
when because they're going there to escape. They're going there to fulfill whatever fantasy or whatever dream that they had, and to witness somebody fighting in a park, or bad mouthing them, or they don't want to see that.
Yeah, I have a hard time believing some of the stuff that happens sometimes. I think I'm just too naive, and that I myself am so aware of how I treat other people, and that I want to treat people nicely. But especially during the pandemic, some of the stuff that I
Yeah,
know that cast members and team members at Universal as well have had to deal with is just so upsetting that anybody would treat another person. I mean, I've heard of people getting spit on,
yeah.
getting hit, or I mean, obviously, or just getting yelled at, getting talked down to. When if you're going to the parks right now, you should just be aware of the rules
Yeah.
before you go. They make it really easy right now for you
Well,
to know the rules.
and not to say that I was not on my best behavior, although I was aggravated, being thermal checked everywhere I went, and being required to wear a mask. It did get a little old after a while, but you know, to argue with somebody that can't change policy isn't going to make it better.
Right. And
So
they're
you
just
just
trying to
deal with
keep
it.
people safe. They're just doing their job. And
Yeah.
um, the hopefully the more that we follow the rules and go along with the safety measures, then the quicker we'll
I think the
be
one
out of
day I
all of
was
it.
thermal checked 5 times, and I'm like, this is ridiculous.
See, Universal, well, now it doesn't matter because temperature checks are
Right.
gone everywhere. But Universal had a good solution for that because they would do it first thing in the morning, either at your hotel or when you
And then
arrived,
they give you a
and you got
band.
a wristband.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was nice. You only had to do it once for the whole day. And then they had different colors every day. So that stopped them from having to do it so often, which
Yeah.
was nice.
Yeah. I mean, it was, but with Disney, I think it's a little different because you're going from a park, you're going to, a restaurant, you're going over here,
Hmm.
you can go, resort hopping, and every night be a different restaurant.
Hmm.
So they had to do it that way. But, you know, um, I'm just kind of glad things are going back to somewhat normal. And I'm waiting for more of the after hours events to come back because,
Yeah.
well,
Well, they're doing one for Halloween.
They changed it. It was Mickey's Not So Scary. Now
Yes,
it's Boo Bash, and to me that
but
was
it's a
just
step.
awesome. Yeah,
It does look fun, and I'll be there for the 50th anniversary already anyway, so we'll
so
probably have to try that
anybody
out
that's
too.
listening that's never been to an after hours party, what it is I think it starts at what, 7 or 8, lasts till midnight.
Usually, yeah, usually you can get in a little before the parks close. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and,
maybe
and
like
and you
around 7
pay
or
the
so.
same rate that you would pay, to get in for a full day, and you're saying, well, why would I pay for just 4 hours? But there's hardly anybody there. The wait times are like 3-4 minutes for each ride. You just get in line, you get on the ride, and you're having a blast. But when we went for Mickey's Not So Scary, every ride they were handing out candy. So
Yes.
I walked
We
out with a
got
bag
so
full of
much
candy.
candy.
And for other events that they have in the evenings, they might give you hot dogs or drinks or popcorn, and that's all included in your price. So it's like, to me, the hard ticketed evening event is better than being there during the day.
Yeah, I think it kind of works out. I have a ticket still from my parents went to an after hours Valentine's party in the 70s,
Uh,
and I think it was $6 to
$6.
go for the night. It was a little Valentine's Day after hours party they did at Magic Kingdom. I'm pretty
Uh,
sure it was $6.
so how can the listeners find you and read your articles? And
Yeah. Well, it's not easy to spell, but I'm Tarah Chieffi everywhere. So Twitter, Instagram. It's just TarahChieffi. And I try to share links to all my articles when they come out. I've been doing some YouTube videos and stuff too of try to give some helpful tips that way as well for our trips, and share lots of news, even if it's not something I write an article about. Try to share the theme park news that comes out and kind of round it up in one place. So yeah.
And if you have a tip and she's actually writing an article about it, share it out. You might get
Yes.
mentioned in a future piece.
Yes, I do put calls out sometimes. I just did a piece on solo theme park trips, which I don't get to do very much with all these little children right now. So I
Darn
needed a
children.
few people that have gone quite a bit on their own to sort of get their experience and give some tips and stuff. So yeah, I do need help sometimes.
There you go. That's what makes Tarah an e-hero. I mean, she's willing to help everyone out there. And she's making a living doing what she likes to do. It's her passion. She's writing, and she gets to be entertained by Disney and the theme parks and travel all the time. So, follow her lead, and if you have questions, go to her website and follow her on social. So thanks guys for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.